Hello. Welcome to the new Power Paradigm with
Raphael,
Mariana,
and I'm Diane, and this is a new background. Yay! It's cute and floral, and tell us if you like it or not. So today we'll be talking about mental health, intersectional mental health, which is a topic that is very near and dear to our hearts. And I thought that in honor of May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we could actually by the time this video goes up it'll be June, but that's fine. It's a perfect time for us to sit down and talk about intersectional mental health. So in our first video, when we talked about intersectional feminism, Mariana mentioned in the beginning of the video that we all have intersecting social identities, but something that we didn't mention was that we all live with mental illnesses that very much affect all our other social identities. So I also thought it was a good idea to talk about this because when we think about mental health, often the image that we see is of a white person, with their hands on their faces, or like the iconic the thinking pose, you know. Like seriously, Google mental health or depression, and it's like mostly white people doing that, you know. So I mean, not a lot of people talk about how people like queer people of color, trans people of color, we live through this too, you know. We have mental illnesses as well, and since there's a lack of representation, as usual, I thought it was best to talk about this. So what is mental illness? So mental illness, for those of you who don't know, it refers to mental health conditions, disorders of thought, feeling, or behavior that make dealing with the demands of everyday life a struggle sometimes, you know. Mental illnesses can come in various shapes and forms, just like physical illnesses. And for some context, in Quebec and Canada, I mean, the mental health care system here can be a really difficult system to navigate if you're not familiar with it, because it's structured based on our larger healthcare system. And I could sit here and talk to you about that all day, but that would take all day. So what we'll do is
especially explaining like the differences and the fucking reforms that have been happening recently.
And the CLSCs and like the Bill 10. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we'll put some links in the info bar so that you can check that out if you want to learn more, and you know, just so you can have resources. But so, you know, according to the National Institute of Public Health in Quebec, both in Quebec and Canada, about close to one in 5 people have mental disorders. Most people don't seek out professional help. So those are just like some fast facts for you. And so we'll talk about our mental health experiences. Does anyone want to go first?
I'll go first real quick.
Yeah, okay.
So I started seeing a therapist about a month or 2 ago. I've had about 5 sessions with her because I kind of realized before I started seeing her that I have this like reoccurring, like really intense depressive episode that happens for a couple of months of the year, and I kind of like realized that, oh shit, this is like cyclical, it's a pattern, like, and it's really affecting how it's affecting my life personally, my like social commitments, my academic life, my professional life, and my employment. So I kind of took the executive decision to like reach out and try to help someone, like find someone to help me, because I was tired of doing it by myself, and like I realized like by myself is not working out at all.
Well, me, it started really young. How did I start? Yeah, because for the longest time when I was a kid, I would always feel alone. I wouldn't talk to many people. I would like socially, I was very awkward, and I'm still kind of am socially awkward a little bit, yeah. But I felt alone, and it would get worse and worse as I would go. I would get older, you know, and especially with coming out, being gay, being black and gay, and it was just all those things were happening, and it was just like it's like people were hitting me from left and right, and I couldn't really, you know, handle it. And it's when it got worse when I was like 17, 18, because I had suicidal thoughts, and my suicidal thoughts were coming to the forefront. And I remember starting writing letters to the people I love, like to my mom and to my brother and to my dad, and just letters saying like I love you, I'm sorry if I'm gonna go away, because it was just there. I was like I didn't want to be here anymore, and I was like I had friends, of course, I had my best friends, I had my brother, my twin who I love. Yeah,
Only him, none of the other
Only
brothers.
No, I love everyone. I love everyone. Yeah, I had my twin, I had my mom, my dad, like people around me, you know. But when you're in depression, I think it's hard to explain. It's just you have to live it. You don't you people around you, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
You don't see it because it's you don't. So yeah, I was depressed. Yeah.
It feels like you're in like a never-ending black hole, and there's no escape, and you kind of forget that there's a world outside of like your emotional being, and it's really hard to get help.
And everything's difficult. Like even till this day, I always have that phase where everything's difficult. School becomes difficult, work becomes difficult, and I don't know how to manage it, and I become all over the place. No, I'm less organized.
So I have borderline personality disorder as my primary diagnosis. I have comorbid mental illnesses, comorbid being co-occurring. So borderline personality disorder. I'm starting off like this is what I have, like medical terms. So BPD, borderline personality disorder, is my primary diagnosis. I also live with PTSD and major depression. And that's something that it's really hard to talk about because BPD is one of the most stigmatized mental illnesses out there. Even with the name, it's very stigmatized. I mean, borderline, it was named borderline personality disorder because back then they thought of it as a mild form of schizophrenia, and they thought that borderline was between, like on the border of neurosis and psychosis, which has since been disproven, and now we know that BPD exists on a spectrum, so we can't all fit in these boxes. And so I was diagnosed when I was 18. I think I was first, I had to go to the hospital because I was in a crisis, and I was kept for intensive care, and that's when they evaluated me. I think they diagnosed me with PD-NOS, which is personality disorder non otherwise specified. And then they evaluated me some more and diagnosed me with BPD. And that was really important for me. It was crucial because I always had an identity disturbance. So BPD is basically a long pattern of unstable interpersonal relationships, unstable sense of self, and unstable difficulty regulating emotions. There's other criteria, but that's basically what it is. And I felt that way my whole life. I never really felt like I had an identity. Some days I was really empty. Some days I had a big identity, but then it was different the next day. Or so when I was diagnosed, I felt so relieved, like I finally have a name for what to call, even though it's like a problematic name, I finally had like something to call what I was experiencing, what was developing for so many years, but I think that was difficult at the same time because it can be really scary to know that you have this. But then having to go out in the world and learn how to live with it. And so I started going to therapy, I started taking medication, but it's a struggle every single day, even though I've gotten so much better. And some of the symptoms, like with impulsivity, I'm impulsive, not in super damaging ways, but there are still, I recognize things now that could lead to even more self-destructive behavior. So that's pretty much me. And so being queer people of color, especially because, again, a lack of diversity, how does your mental health affect you, being queer people of color? Do you think that the current mental health system fails you? And are there any stigmas that you've encountered? Yeah.
I guess should I start?
Sure, go for it.
So yeah, because I have a story. Story time. when I was younger, I keep on saying when I was younger.
Because we're super old now.
I'm still young. Yeah. But yeah, so I called Gay Coots, and
Which is a helpline here in Montreal for anyone who has who's like struggling with their sexual orientation.
and I called them, and then I was talking to this guy, and then I remember when I was on the phone, and because what sometimes happens to me is that I get like when I'm depressed, I tend to have panic attacks, and like when I'm in that panic attack, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, and then I told myself I'm going to control myself. I'm going to call someone so I could talk to someone, and he can listen or she can listen also. So I was talking to the person, and I was telling the person, I'm gay, and on top of that, I have other problems going around. I'm all alone, and nobody loves me. I'm just like I don't know what to do. I'm having a panic attack. Please help me. The guy was like and then he said, you should go to a thing called Gay Afrique. And I remember just like when he said that, I was like, I think he was trying to do the right thing.
But that's like the tone of voice, like just
but
the way you're saying this.
And the way he said it, and as time goes by, I'm like, what I feel happened is here was a man who was Quebecer, and he was talking to a young African man, and maybe he didn't see I don't know if I'm going too far with it, but maybe he didn't know how to go about it, so he said, okay, go over there.
Yeah.
Go over there, they can listen to you, they'll understand. And what people have to understand, people who have recurring depression all the time, and when they need to talk to someone, sometimes like just listening helps, But if you listen and you tend to like brush it off, it just you hide after, and that's what happened to me. I just hid. I just hid. I didn't want to talk to anybody because I felt like I was a burden. I felt like I was too much, and the stigmas. I remember people telling me like, I think you want to be sad. I think you want to be you're comfortable in that sadness when I'm not comfortable. Like I wasn't comfortable, and I just felt alone.
For me, it's really therapy is helping me it's helping me discover all of these like really problematic and damaging and harmful things that I've internalized as I was growing up about what it means to be Latina, what it means to have a mental illness, and it's definitely helped me like identify like when I have like harmful behavior and harmful like thought patterns. It's been good. It's a struggle. I've been to like 5 or 6 sessions. I've cried in all of them. Here's to maybe hopefully getting to one where I don't cry.
So if I look back, every mental health professional I've seen since I was 12 has been white. I mean, it's like, okay, cool. But, and I've never really thought about how, because I'm just very recently learning about my cultural identity and how that comes into play. Because I mean, mental health and your cultural identity, they're not separated. But it's only recently that I've like, in the last year or so that I've been thinking about how like this has affected my treatment and like the way I view mental health, the way I internalize some of the things that have been said about my mental illness. Like one of the things that that I have mental illnesses now, but for a lot of different reasons. There's the causes there are theories of what the causes are, obviously, some genetics, some brain stuff, and there's some like environment stuff, and I suffered abuse when I was a kid, and I didn't realize until after I reported the abuse just how in my family to talk about things that bothers us is a sign of weakness. So there was so much like unsaid, like nothing is acknowledged, everything is about silence and hiding, and I was tired of doing that, and I know I did the right thing by reporting the abuse and getting help, but I paid for those. I paid for the fact that my family imploded after that, you know, like, and I have to like unlearn certain things of like why we're so silent about these things, and it's because for us it's a sign of a weakness. I like when I was younger, I was called like a burden, difficult, and even like the stigmas that come with my mental illnesses is I'm manipulative, I'm attention seeking, I'm violent, I'm psycho, you know, and I think that's because you know, like because of the way media shows mental illness, and I've talked about this in therapy before of how the way that I try to deal with things today with the way media is, and the way like mental health not all mental health professionals are fully equipped to talk about being people of color having mental illness has re-traumatized me so many times. Like, you know, I remember saying to my therapist once that you know, the way people talk about mental health makes me want to die more than my own mental illnesses make me want to die sometimes, you know. And I think when I was in college, I was a part of an accessibility center, because I needed, you know, having a mental illness makes it difficult for me to be in school, to take exams. I need extensions for assignments and all that stuff. And I think right now at the college, you don't have to divulge like what your illness is, like what you have specifically. But at the time, like I had to, you know, it tells you what you have, and you have to give that to all of your teachers. And my advisor at the time, who's like a really sweet lady, but she told me, you know, like BPD, you know, they can be some like difficult patients, so maybe like you know, you don't want to put too much out there and stuff. And it's like it's not because I wanted to tell people like, you know, this is how I deal with things, but it's like the world is not like they don't know how to deal with you, and they don't want anything to do with you sometimes. So that was really hard. There's this quote from Star Trek. Star Trek Voyager.
Next Gen, TOS or Voyager?
I think it was Voyager. Oh wait, no, was it? Listen, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But that's really stuck with me is survival is not sufficient. So survival is not enough. So you can survive trauma, you know, but you can't. Like it's not enough to live with, you know, just because you survived something doesn't mean like you'll be able to live with something. So that's been something that I've learned and something that I'm still learning. And I started talking to my therapist about how it feels to be coming from a family that's constantly like we believe in silence and you shouldn't talk about things, and also having this mental illness, because I remember reading somewhere how, you know, like confession is a staple of white culture. So it's like to talk about things like I'm not used to doing those things, and so it's been really eye-opening to talk about that. So I feel like for me the mental health care system hasn't failed me, just because I've been super lucky. For when I've reached out for help, I've gotten the help I needed, but I mean it was not always the best help, but I mean I did get somewhere. I'm still here and I'm able to talk about things without crying. I really thought I was gonna come in here today bawling.
I'm so happy you haven't
We're
cried
so
yet.
good. Yeah, I know, but which doesn't mean it's not okay to it's not okay to cry.
Yeah.
Crying is great.
Yeah.
It releases so much, you guys. But I feel like there's so much more we can do. I mean, the fact that there are like most people don't even reach out for help because you know like there's so much stigma.
And I think the system society is to blame.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
of how they view mental illness. You know, I've always said the most difficult word,
Like a triggering word.
triggering word that is weakness. It's the sense of why you sad, why are you complaining, why are you doing this, and it brings back to this sense of weakness because you're weak. Be strong. Be strong. You know, this is how the world is. People, you know, things are gonna get difficult, and this is how it is. You know, and for some people, you know, they can go for it, and you know, fine, good for you. You know, but I know, for me, like when I would hear somebody say, oh, it's being weak, or it's like you're comfortable in your sadness. You have to be strong. You have to fight. I mean, I know that I when I was when I am at this point, at that point of like I'm in my depression, I'm like in a funk, I'm just I can't get out, and I'm having my panic attack. Like I want to try and be strong, because the society told me to be strong, and then I get angry because I'm not being strong, and then I panic because I'm not being strong enough, and then it becomes this vicious circle. This internal circle where like when I'm not being strong it's just like it's difficult.
It's exhausting. It's so exhausting having to, like, even like your internal dialogue. You're having to fight yourself and try to pick yourself up, but then you're angry at yourself because you're not doing this, and then you have to like, oh shit, my family, oh fuck my friends, and it's just like, oh, it's so tiring.
Yeah, I remember when I was before I started, getting the help I need. I remember my best friend at the time told me, if I heard that if you're really depressed, like you just won't get out of bed. But like I was highly functional, like I was excelling, but like I was also drowning. Like I didn't, like I would go to school, I'd come home, I'd have no more energy left for whatever the hell I had to do that day. And it's just like, and it's not something that I can just will away, because there are actual like depression. There's actual like brain stuff, like it affects your brain, and even when people say like like the depression actually it affects your brain, it's way more complicated than that. Like every brain is different, but it's just like I can't just like be proactive about changing my life and like I'll start eating better and I'll start exercising.
I'll take vitamin D.
I'll do all these things. Like I'm still and I think when you were talking about how like you had all these people that you loved you have all these people that you love in your life, and you even though there's love there, it's like when you're in a state where you can't, like, you're unreachable. Like you can't, like I remember a lot of the times when I'm really, really depressed and someone tells me stuff like you're not alone, like it's helpful, it's great, but it's like in that moment it doesn't erase any of what I'm going through, and so it's tough, it's really hard, and to be able and when you're not able to talk about those things, like it gets worse, like it's difficult. It's difficult.
So what I found was, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So what I found was why it was difficult, because I remember I would hear a few African people say, but not all of them. We'll say Congo because that's where I'm from. They would say depression is not a Congolese issue, it's not an African issue. And then I would when you hear those kind of things, and then you hear weak, and we're back into that same word, weak, and it's not just in Africa, even over here, that people view as mental illness something as weak, and when you hear that, then you put yourself, you go in a hole, and at the time when you're ready to talk about it, it becomes difficult to talk about it, because you were in that hole. So then you're not coherent, and then for me that's just my what happened to me. When I would talk to my therapist, because I was so ashamed of being sad, being depressed, of having panic attack day after day, that when I was trying to talk about the fact that I was stuck, I was like in that moment. When I was talking about, I was incoherent. I didn't know where to start. I would talk all over the place because everything was in there. Because when I was young, this happened, and now this is happening, and I couldn't
And that's an issue because you don't. As someone who has a mental illness and you're struggling to find the right words to explain what you're feeling, and then there's this feeling, there's this you don't want to seem less than other people. And the fact that other people will, automatically think that you're not intelligent or that you're weak for feeling the way you're feeling, it's hard. And I think, I think sometimes people, even people who are supportive of mental illness, it can be troubling. I know I've spoken to a lot of neurotypical people, and neurotypical meaning just basically you don't have a mental illness. They will say everyone has problems, everything, life is so hard to deal with. And yes, that is true, but maybe look up what a mental illness is. And maybe I swear, I remember Googling I wanted I'm like obsessed with trying to figure out who I am as a person, because I mean that's what it is. I have an identity disturbance. Sometimes it's really difficult to know who I am. So I remember researching, and a lot of the things that I found was these articles on like how to deal with your BPD loved one, and it was just kind of like, you know, talking to us like we're children, and that we're, you know, that they have to walk on eggshells around us, and it was just like, you're not seen as a valued human being. You're not seen as a member of society, and it feels like you're completely isolated.
And even that sentence, how to deal with.
Yeah.
How
As
to
if
deal
you're a
with.
problem.
Yeah.
It's just, it says like, that's a problem.
And this is how you fix
This is how you
that
fix that
problem.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Which
think
is
about
not the case.
yourself. And like, it's just,
Yeah, but I think doing this, like talking about it, and recognizing that there are other, you know, people like us out there. There's this great project that I discovered. I think it was started in 2015 by Dior Vargas, who's a Latina feminist mental health activist. They started this photo project called People of Color with Mental Illness, and so you can look that up, and I think we'll link it in the down bar. That they're basically, it's just like photos of people of color who have mental illnesses, and it's really great because you can see yourself represented. You know, not just what we see on TV. You know, I swear, I think all the depictions of people with mental, I cringe so much when I see a movie like, oh, they're gonna depict someone with mental illness. I'm like, okay, all right.
It's like grace for the worst.
Yeah, I don't want to watch it because I'm gonna get triggered. So, how do you think we as a society can be better at addressing mental health among people of color, or just, you know, mental health in general?
it's a difficult subject. I think it's difficult to. I don't have a solution because I think when it comes to POCs, there's lots of things that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
Not because we don't want to talk about it, but just because I think of the sociological things that happen to us as POCs, you know.
Yeah.
So I think like so many things are happening to us that we have to be strong, you know. So I think we have to, me personally, is that tell people that it's okay.
Yeah.
That it's just okay, and that I think we just need to talk about it more.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah,
I
for
know,
sure.
I don't know, but,
I think it starts with talking about it. Like we're all from like culturally different backgrounds, so we all know how difficult it is to talk about mental illness, like to our families, to people of like the same, you know, same background. But I think talking about it is the first step.
Yeah, I think, for sure, talking about it. I think it's also, you know, it's hard to tell other POCs, like, it's better to talk about it. Because sometimes, I mean, people will come at it on their own.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously, if someone's suicidal, someone's in a real crisis, you know, I mean, to have a support system is so important.
Yeah.
I think, like, we're losing people. And it's just like, we need to be better we need to take care of each other better.
Yeah.
We need to understand, we need to listen to conversations like these, talk about these things so that we can find better ways at dealing with it. We have to stop saying shit like, you're so bipolar, because that's not how you describe the weather or your bottle of water.
Yeah.
Or, you know, don't say someone is psycho, because psycho doesn't mean like, or crazy. Like someone who is psycho has psychosis. You know, it's not like, you can't just do that. You can't say things, and like, don't just like look at the pejorative terms of mental illnesses and don't say them. Like, avoid them at all costs, you know. And I think that's how we're going to be better at talking about mental illness. And I think, I mean, we don't all have solutions either. We're struggling to live every day with what we have, but we have each other. Yeah. And that's super great. Yeah. Yes. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you guys. Oh, I wanted to mention, sorry. There's this great website that when I was doing my research, I loved it. It's called Rest for Resistance. We'll link it down below. And they talk about how mental health affects people of color. And it's run by queer people of color, trans people of color who have mental illness. And it's really great. Like, it really helped me a lot when I was looking at things. And I think keep making art, keep talking about what affects you, and let's make mental health intersectional, y'all. Yeah, because the future.
And remember, just one thing: don't see it as weakness.
No, it's not a weakness.
It's
It's not a weakness. You are valued. If you are experiencing a mental illness right now, and listen, you don't need, like, a lot of people say don't self-diagnose, but I am a firm believer that if you are not you are not capable of getting mental health like you're not able of getting help right now, either because of the situation you're in, your family, whatever it is, and you can self-diagnose. Like I think as long as you're able to, not let it consume you too much, and like not let it I mean, that's difficult. I mean, sometimes it happens, but it's be careful with yourselves. Be careful with yourselves.
Yeah.
And know that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not. If you have a personality disorder, you don't have a broken personality. Okay, and you're a human being, and you're valued, and you have the right to be here. Yeah. So thanks so much for watching, you guys.
Thank you.
And talk to us about how you feel about mental health, and if you're a queer, trans person of color, how it affects you.
Yeah.
Let's start a conversation, and comment, like, subscribe. Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Subscribe, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.